సనాతనానికి తిరుగులేని ఆయుధం దొరికింది. పండగ చేసుకోండి. ఐక్యరాజ్య సమితిలో 193 దేశాలు సనాతనానికి మద్దతు తెలిపే బయోపైరసీ ట్రీటీపై మూకుమ్మడిగా సంతకాలు చేశాయి. నాస్తికులారా కాసుకోండి. సనాతనాన్ని నీరుకార్చే ఎన్నో ప్రయత్నాలు చేశారు. ఒకడైతే సనాతనాన్ని నిర్మూలిస్తానంటాడు. ఇక మీ పప్పులేమీ ఉడకవు. మన వేద జ్ఞానాన్ని సనాతనాన్ని కాపీకొట్టి సైన్స్ను అభివృద్ధి చేశారన్నది పచ్చి నిజం. ఇకపై ఎలాంటి పరిశోధన ఫలితాలకైనా మూలం సనాతన వేద జ్ఞానం అని చెప్పక తప్పదు. తెల్లతోలు వాళ్ళే అన్నీ కనిపెట్టారు. సనాతనంలో ఏమీ లేదంటే ఇకపై చెల్లదు. నరేంద్ర మోడీ కృషి వల్ల ప్రపంచవ్యాప్తంగా యోగా దినం ఏర్పాటుతో సనాతనానికి గుర్తింపు లభించింది. ఇక బయోపైరసీ ట్రీటీ వల్ల ఈ గుర్తింపు అంబరాన్నంటుంది. పశ్చిమ దేశాల బోగస్ పేటెంట్లకు చెక్కు పెట్టింది. ఇక బయోపైరసీ అంటే ఏమిటో తెలుసుకుందాం. మన దేశంలోని సనాతనమైన జ్ఞానాన్ని దొంగిలించి తమ పరిశోధన ఫలితమని చెప్పి పేటెంట్ పొందడం వంటిది. ఉదాహరణకు పసుపు యొక్క గుణాలు మన దేశంలో వేల సంవత్సరాలుగా తెలిసి వాడుతున్నాం. అలాగే వేపాకు గుణాలు కూడా మన పూర్వీకులకు తెలుసు, కానీ వాటిపై ఇతర దేశస్తులు పేటెంట్ పొందారు. ఈ బయోపైరసీ ట్రీటీ వల్ల మన ఆయుర్వేదం ఖ్యాతి రానున్న రోజుల్లో ఆకాశాన్ని అందుకోనుంది.
Today, there was a historic announcement from the United Nations, from their World Intellectual Property Organization. After more than 20 years of negotiations, a new treaty has been signed. It will help protect the global south from biopiracy. For those of you who don't know, biopiracy is the stealing of indigenous knowledge about genetic resources like medicinal plants, indigenous crops, or local animal breeds. For too long, Western individuals and companies have exploited this ancient knowledge. They see this traditional knowledge in action, and then they go home and patent it. Then they sit back and make profits of it, pretending to have discovered something that the global south discovered centuries ago. Well, starting today, that just became a lot harder. Here's our report.
The diplomatic conference meeting in plenary adopts the WIPO Treaty on Intellectual Property, Genetic Resources, and Associated Traditional Knowledge, and the agreed statements it contains, as contained in document GRATK/DC/7-PROV. If I see no objection, and I see no objection, it is so decided.
And with that, a historic injustice is on the verge of being undone. The treaty that was adopted today may finally curb a menace to the global south. To understand biopiracy, let's look at a few examples. We'll start with turmeric. In 1995, two scientists at the University of Mississippi in the US were given a patent to use turmeric to treat flesh wounds. Turmeric is a plant that resembles ginger. It is indigenous to India and other parts of Asia. Indians have been using it to treat wounds for thousands of years. But scientists in the US were allowed to get a patent on this. This patent was soon challenged by an Indian research organization and revoked in 1997. But for 2 years, the US-based scientists were profiting of indigenous Indian knowledge. Another famous case related to India is of the neem plant. In 1994, an American multinational chemical corporation, W.R. Grace, patented the neem tree seed extract for an anti-fungus spray. Again, Indians have known about neem's fungicidal properties for millennia, but the American company had the audacity to try and charge royalties for ancient Indian knowledge. The patent was eventually overturned in 2000, but for 6 years, W.R. Grace was allowed to try and shake down Indian farmers. India isn't the only country to suffer from biopiracy. Another infamous case involves the Hoodia cactus. It's a plant found in southern Africa. It has hunger and thirst-quenching properties. A British firm and the pharmaceutical giant Pfizer tied up with a South African firm to produce an anti-obesity drug using the Hoodia. while giving no credit or royalties to the indigenous San people who had been using it for generations. This prompted the San people to demand compensation, and they managed to sign a benefit-sharing agreement. But often, the exploitation is never undone. South Asian basmati rice, South American quinoa, Mexican yellow beans, Ethiopian teff. There have been biopiracy attempts on all of these resources, and countless others. But it may finally stop now, because of today's new law.
So this is it's an historic moment. I was recalling as we were preparing for this, how many years we have been dedicated to the cause of a disclosure requirement on genetic resources and associated traditional knowledge.
After negotiating for over 20 years, all 193 UN members have agreed on the new law on patents involving genetic resources and associated with traditional knowledge. Anyone filing a patent for those will be required to disclose where they got the idea from. Credit will have to be given to indigenous communities where it's due, so patents will become harder to acquire, at least for things that indigenous communities have been doing forever. This won't be the end of biopiracy, but it's a crucial first step to bringing about its downfall.